So, I really think the Blue Yeti gets a lot of undeserved hate nowadays. I see a lot of recommendations against it, so this is going to be a short video in defense of the Blue Yeti. Also, hello! This is my flesh tuber model, so I've also got my regular model down here too, somewhere. But regardless. So this microphone is $25 to $30. If you buy it on Mercari or eBay, it's very cheap. I'm gonna kind of, this is sort of gonna be a stream of consciousness video. So just a heads up, but $25 or $30 on Amazon or eBay, or maybe not Amazon, but eBay, Mercari, a lot of those used websites, you can find these very cheap. The thing is, they're not going to have a stand a lot of the times, and that's kind of why they're being sold so cheap. But the stand's kind of heavy. It's bulky. It's more to ship. So what happens with the stand too is, because it's all metal, if it gets tapped at all, if you speak at the correct frequency, or I suppose the incorrect frequency, it will reverberate the metal, because the microphone is metal, this is metal, the parts inside are metal, they will also reverberate, and you'll get these like gross tinny sounds in your recordings. It's not good. So the reason it comes without a stand is more of a pro than a con, because what you can get is one of these, and it is called a shock mount. The Blue Yeti has one specific for it because it is a chunky boy, and it's also a weird boy. Kind of mounts a little strangely. So you get yourself one of these, you get yourself a standard microphone boom arm to put it on, or a microphone stand, and then you are really set. I would say a boom arm that can hold this. You do need one that's a little more heavy duty because, like I said, it's pretty chunky. Or you could just get a desk stand. Probably $30 minimum for a stand that can hold this. So let's say you find this for $30, another $30 for the stand, maybe $20 for the shock mount. I'm not sure offhand, but you've got $80 for your full setup. You could probably find it cheaper. I'd say you could probably find it for like $60, and that's for a full setup. If you get this with the mic stand already, you can find that for maybe $40. It's not ideal, but it works just fine. You just have to be a little more careful. And you could probably find that for $40. So the cost is just it's really hard to beat for the Blue Yeti for ASMRtists. And I think the reason the cost factors in so much is because, kind of specifically speaking for ASMR, this is a great microphone regardless. But for ASMR, you get the stereo effect with this microphone. You get the left and the right sort of spatial audio. The thing with most microphones is they are one microphone. Makes sense. This is two microphones. So this microphone has different what are called polar patterns. It just describes the direction the mic records from. So this microphone, it has a cardioid polar pattern, which means it has sort of a heart shape. It's most sensitive in the front, and then as you sort of come around, it becomes less sensitive as it gets towards the back. So this microphone can only record from one direction. It faces this way. You get that sort of shape I described with it. This has 4 different polar patterns because it has multiple mics inside of it. It has omnidirectional, which can record all the same way around. It has figure 8, which records from 2 sides evenly, and it sort of blocks sound from the other 2 sides. The one we're interested in is the stereo polar pattern, which basically means you can change the polar patterns with the dial on this side. And like I said, the one we're interested in, stereo. Stereo means you get that spatial audio effect, where you can kind of go from left to right, not like omnidirectional, but for triggers and everything, it's really good for ASMR, and getting that spatial effect. I believe there's a couple other USB mics that can record stereo audio, but it's not super common, and they're probably not going to be as cheap, almost guaranteed. I admit I don't follow USB stuff very much. I follow XLR mic news and such a little bit, but mainly, I have what I have, and it works well for me. So the setup that I have is probably a $450 setup, sort of in the prosumer level, kind of somewhere between like having an all-out soundproof studio versus like at home with your cell phone. which I do recommend, actually. I recommend people start with it. You can get really great audio from your cell phone. I was surprised. I recorded some of my audios with my cell phone recently, and it was great. So the quality will be better than you think, I promise. The final thing, really, I think is a positive for this microphone is that it's not quite as sensitive as other microphones. It's not going to be as sensitive as a $100 XLR microphone or a $50 microphone. Even something in like its own used price category, it's probably going to be less sensitive than if, assuming you had two of them. Like I said, even if they're two $20 XLR microphones, $30, they might be more sensitive than this. And I think that's a benefit because you probably don't have a very well treated space, in regards to audio. And I think recording in a closet, recording with a bunch of blankets around you, having to set that up every time, it kind of sucks. So I don't really love to do that. And if your space isn't treated super well, the sensitivity on your microphone is actually going to capture more of the reverberations. It's going to capture more of the echo that's just going to be in everybody's room that reflects off the walls, surfaces, etc. If you have a very well treated room, you might be more well suited to more sensitive microphones. But if you don't think this is going to capture less of what's actually going to sound better, in my opinion. So that's kind of my whole thing with the Blue Yeti. They're going to be much less expensive. They're going to give quality that I think is going to be, it's going to sound better in most spaces. You don't have to spend as much money, especially for a complicated setup, which is going to be harder to figure out, get that working for, especially for somebody who doesn't want to muck around with all of this and just wants to get going and record. I think that's all kind of the main stuff I've covered. I think it's just a very simple microphone to make the choice and it'll work for you. Maybe not always the best, but that's it. Thank you. Bye. Oh, and I did want to add, I did record this whole video on the Blue Yeti. I know I had that one sitting in my camera frame, but I was recording with that one, but I re-recorded it with my Yeti. So I also wanted to show you real quick what the polar patterns sound like. So you might hear me clicking around a little bit. I am so sorry. This is what I was saying about why I like this stand better than the original. So this is cardioid, which you can tell as I go around the back. It's going to become less sensitive right about here. Then you have, I'm actually not sure. I think this is figure 8, which means it's going to be more sensitive from one side. I believe it should be this side and this side, or this side and this side. 2 of those will be sensitive, 2 of those will not be. And then you have omnidirectional, which when I move around the microphone, it shouldn't sound like I'm moving at all. It just means that everything sounds like it's coming from one spot if you want to record in the middle of something. And then finally, here is our golden goose for ASMR, our stereo setting. So that's going to go ahead and give you the possibility to do this left-right sort of sound effect and to be able to go around the listener and do little triggers and do little whispers in one side and do little softly spoken words in the other. Yeah, there you go. All right. Goodbye.